Well, there you are, you little nation of scumbags. Yeah, how's it going? A very good morning to you, and I hope you're having a very profitable Cheltenham week so far. This is potentially the biggest and busiest off the ball AM we've ever had, because we've got two hits from Cheltenham, one from John Duggan and one from Johnny Ward. We're going to go to Graham Hunter to talk about Barcelona and Leo Messi, who is being Leo Messi even at this very late stage in his career. And of course, we're going to talk about us being scumbags.
Yeah,
I'm a scumbag, you're a scumbag, your mum and dad are scumbags, the people who sweep the streets, your teachers, your doctors, everybody who brings you these programs, the people who deliver your milk. We are all a nation of scumbags.
We're scummy. We're not scumbags. There's a difference between being a little bit scummy and between
a
being a
full-blown
scumbag.
scumbag.
Yeah, definitely. So
what's the difference?
I would say that being scummy is trying...
We'll spit at you, but we won't steal your money.
Being scummy is being kind of... I suppose if the bus driver isn't looking and you sneak onto the bus, that's being a little bit scummy. Whereas going out of your way to say, screw you, bus driver.
I'm getting on, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference between being scummy and being a scumbag. So we're scummy. We're the people who are opportunists, I
Jamie
guess.
Carragher was scummy, but he might not be a scumbag. But we don't know. I mean, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt in that instance.
It was a scummy act done by potentially a non-scumbag. But
or potentially a scumbag, we don't know.
I'm absolutely mystified, first of all, by how this nation has kind of erupted into a state of outrage about these Eddie Jones comments.
Have we though, really? Do we not really go, who cares? You're a bit of a dickhead. We always knew that, and now it's been laid plain for us.
Well, I think we do. I think the nation does care about this stuff. I think there is a kind of, obviously, this Irish inferiority complex, which weirdly has come up quite a bit on this show recently, that it's like some man who is involved with England calls us a derogatory term. Therefore, no, I'm saying in general. So this is the specific of it. And we therefore have to leap to this sort of level of outrage, which is necessary in this case. But it's not necessary in this case. It was a really, I think we should all be laughing at Eddie Jones for this situation, because clearly he thinks it was grand to just go up on stage and say in public that the Irish are scummy and that Wales is a shit country and all that sort of stuff, thinking that it would not bite him in the arse. And clearly having to issue an apology is biting yourself in the arse, because you are getting distracted from the match day preparation.
Well, you're not getting distracted from the match day preparation. The press office comes along and says, right, we're going to have to deal with this. We nip it in the bud. I'll write something. You put your name to it and away we go. And he goes, grand. There'll be questions about it. Make sure you got your answer ready for it. What's your answer for it? Oh, mate, I was getting paid, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, all right, okay, fine, we're done. It's not really distracting.
Fair enough. Okay, so it's not distracting. In that case, there is no real story here. But I think it is a little bit of a distraction, and that is the only thing that you can construe as a real kind of measurable thing here. But also, I'm just incredibly impressed by the cojones that Eddie Jones showed to get up on stage wherever this conference was. Was it in Japan?
Jones.
Whatever. Troy Deeney said cojones, so I'm saying cojones.
Cojones is correct.
Yes. It was John Motson at the weekend, wasn't it? My apologies. So Eddie Jones gets up on stage it was Japan, wasn't it, where this conference was on? It certainly wasn't in any of the Six Nations countries, and decides to slap down a load of Six Nations humour on these people who clearly don't have a clue what's going on. So he walks in and he's like, oh, the scummy Irish, eh? Anybody laughing? And nobody's laughing. And then he's like, well, what about Wales? Anybody in here from Wales tonight? Nobody's responding. And he's like, little shit country with 3 million people, and nobody's laughing still. It's like an Irish comedian going to New York and is like, remember the bread shortage last week? Anybody? That was essentially what Eddie Jones was doing.
That was you pretty much walking around the streets of New York this week. I can attest to that.
Yeah, but that was me.
Stuck at the subway turnstile going, hey, well, how about that bread shortage, eh?
So that was the kind of toned down version of what Eddie Jones did. Also, as well, the use of the word scummy. I don't think anybody has used scummy in a derogatory sense since Arctic Monkeys in 2006. It's a term that I haven't heard in a long time, and I applaud Eddie Jones for using it, and it is absolutely hilarious. As a nation, we should be laughing at him.
What's the Arctic Monkeys?
So it was the original title of the song, When the Sun Goes Down, one of their first hits. And I guess it was kind of Sheffield slang back in the day. Maybe Mancunian. I don't quite know. I'm not sure if it's in the Australian vernacular, whether or not I
presume it is, yeah.
Obviously they're in a different time zone. Maybe they live in a different time of slagging people entirely.
Yeah.
And
well, it's pretty rudimentary, crappy banter, like #bants, isn't it? It's like, I'm going to make some fairly crappy, crude stereotypes. It's just a little bit short about banging on about sheep in Wales, isn't it? Like
it's not.
It's verging onto that. But it's like it's not important.
It's completely
really
unimportant. What?
Let's have a look at the video. Tommy's shouting at us here. Get to the video. Get to the video.
So Wales, who knows Wales? Is there any Welsh people here? So it's this little shit place that's got 3 million people. 3 million people. 3 million. We've played 23 tests. We've only lost 1 test to Scummy Irish. I'm still dirty about that game. But we'll get that back. We'll get that back. Don't worry. We've got them next year at home. We'll get them back.
Yeah, so that's what Eddie Jones thought was going to happen. Except what actually happened was that there was stone cold silence apart from the guy on the stage who it turns out is Irish.
Yeah, Mike Lynch is his name, former worker with the SAS. So it's very hard to find out information about this guy, Mike Lynch. But I do find if you Google him and Google enough kind of terms to do with the army, you will find a Twitter page named Mike Lynch, which in its bio says that a former operative with the British Special Forces.
Commander Indigenous Covert Operations Forces in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes, but if you click on that Twitter page, the page does not exist anymore. However, on the bio that you can see on the Google search, it does say Ireland, so it's not just an Irish name. Mike Lynch does seem to have Irish connections, and clearly Eddie Jones is grinning from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Like this is like, hey Mike, look at me making a funny quip about your nation.
This doesn't matter. But like, I think all it goes to show is that Eddie Jones is a bit of a clown.
And we knew this.
I thought he was, exactly. That's the thing. His true colours are emerging for everybody to see. And like, I mean, the RFU are full of toffs, so maybe this matters to them. Maybe they're thinking, who's this little guy getting us in trouble?
Well, if it matters to you,
angry man getting us in trouble.
If you're getting angry about this,
with a crappy breakdown.
Then if you're getting angry about this, then you clearly haven't been following Eddie Jones's career, or you haven't been like. I've got plenty of respect for Eddie Jones as a coach. I've got little to no respect for him as a man. I mean, this is just kind of representative of his character, and we've known that this is the type of man he is. I don't want to work myself into a frenzy now because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. Time to get to the back pages.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.
We'll start with the Irish Independent, and it is this story once again. Jones sorry for a scummy Irish slur. England head coach apologises after footage of his controversial comments goes viral. It's the same story on the back of the Times Ireland edition. Jones sorry over a scummy Ireland video. England coach also launched attack on Welsh. I am so sorry, reads the back of the Irish Daily Mail. England coach Jones forced to grovel after scummy Irish insult. It's Rugby as well on the Irish Times. They don't give the Jones comments as much prominence. They go with Jacob Stockdale in the main picture. But the headline regarding Jones is Jones apologises for calling Ireland scummy. Meanwhile, on the Racing Post, which is Cheltenham, of course. 2 nations, 1 passion. Undissolved versus Q-Card. That's in the Ryanair today. And Super Sunday versus Sam Spinner. On the back then, you've got Arsenal aiming higher. Gunners can finish Italian job to seal a spot in the last 8. It's Arsenal versus AC Milan. It kicks off at 8:05 this evening.
Heartbreaking pictures of Ruby Walsh being helped off the track by his dad Ted yesterday in most of the newspapers today. The back pages though, Messi goes nuts. That's because there were 2 nutmegs from Leo Messi in the 3-0 win for Barcelona against Chelsea last night. We'll talk to Graham Hunter in Barcelona a little bit later on about that. They obviously also have the Eddie Jones story on the back there. The Examiner didn't think the Eddie Jones story is worthy of a front page cover. I tend to agree with them. Different class, Messi unstoppable as Barcelona crushed Chelsea. Also Tommy Martin saying that Jimmy Carragher too valuable to sack. No Messying about is the headline on the back of the Herald today, but they do have the picture of Ruby Walsh being crushed by his mount yesterday and the grimace just as he realises exactly what's happening. Willie Mullen said that he thinks the hairline fracture on the old fracture as opposed to a re-break, a full re-break. So that's good news. And there was some talk of Punchestown as opposed to Galway being a potential return for Ruby, which is great because when stuff like this happens, it's inevitable that somebody of Ruby's age, people think, are we going to see him again? Out for the Conte, Barcelona 3, Chelsea 0. I'd say there was one other interesting story. PSG on alert for Mourinho as Jose faces Old Trafford cash battle was one of the smaller headlines on the back of the Mirror. Slack and blue is the Mourinho fears slackers Pogba and Sanchez are killing his Man United side. Well, sell them then, Jose. Sell them and get your money back. Although it's not like you didn't know exactly who they were when you were buying them. Caught out, but if you say it in a British accent, caught, out. Thibaut Courtois.
Because everybody reads the Sun in the UK, it speaks like that.
Yeah. Photo finish rocks Ruby. Yeah, but he's not finished. Scummy Irish. Eddie says sorry after video jibes. Video jibes. Makes it sound a bit more interesting than it actually is. And then The Guardian, masterful Messi, Argentinian scores 2 as Barca dump Chelsea out of Europe. And it's the same picture from most of the newspapers. Magic Messi, the Daily Telegraph. They also have a Cheltenham special with Ruby Walters' agony. And Jones, I'm sorry, England coach apologises for Ireland and Wales insults. It's a pity we didn't get this out before the Wales game.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Yeah.
Does any part of you think that he's right about Wales? Maybe Wales is a shit country?
I mean,
it's only got 3 million people. What a shit country.
We've all said things about Wales and other places. I mean,
I've never been to Wales for longer than a
24
day.
hours cycle.
Yeah. And I haven't seen a whole pile of things to suggest that it couldn't be deemed as shit by some corners. So I don't think it's the most outrageous thing anybody's ever said.
Eddie Jones is a langer, says Richard Kelly, rather succinctly. Good man, Richard. I think most people can get behind that. And this is just further evidence that he's a langer for those of us who were always actually of the opinion that he'd been a langer from the get-go.
Exactly. That's my point. Stop getting worked up about this specific thing. This is just indicative of who he is. It's not this big explosive thing.
Paddy Jones says, I think the Scummy thing is being blown way out of proportion, just like saying the bloody English. And Jones was butthurt over the loss to us. If he meant it, I'm sure it was directed to the team rather than the entire nation. I think your man on stage is Irish. And it's yeah, you scumbags.
And he's clearly laughing. Nobody else in the crowd is laughing, so it's obviously...
Also, Shea was allowed back into Dublin, when even after calling some of the Dublin players scumbags. There's a bit of the scumbag in them.
Yeah, that was kind of more of a...
He meant scamp, but scumbag is what he really meant.
At least he clarified and said, I meant
clarified
scamp.
it, but then he did kind of use the scumbag word again a little bit later on.
Like Jones hasn't come out and said, I meant rascals.
Yeah. He didn't. No, he's apologised unreservedly for any inconvenience that he might have caused. That's what's coming up on the show. Going to get some thoughts from AP McCoy and John Duggan on day 3 of Cheltenham. Going to talk about the Grand Slam with Alan Quinlan in about 10 minutes' time. Andy Lee is going to join us in studio. We'll also be joined by Ryan Burnett on Skype. And we have Graham Hunter as well about Barcelona. And then we'll also squeeze in Johnny Ward. It's the busiest off-the-ball AM we've ever had. And hopefully it's been profitable for you so far. Here is AP talking about the Stayers Hurdle.
I'm not sure. I know the 5-year-old, the horse, he's 6 now, see Sam Spinner was very impressive when the long walk hurdle when he was 5 at Ascot, beat Lammy Surge, and Harry, Yanworth beat Super Sunday at Aintree over 3 miles. I actually think Yanworth could beat Super Sunday again. Do I think Yanworth will win the Stayers Hurdle? Not sure. So very, very open race.
If you were going to pick one?
If I was going to pick one, I'm not. I'd probably Sam Spinner. I'd probably, I think maybe him.
All right, let's get the thoughts of which bit are you laughing
at? Nothing.
If I could get a pen, that'd be great. I think that was it. Yeah. Let's go to John Duggan in Cheltenham. Good morning to you, John.
Jaron Owen, how are we doing?
How was yesterday for you?
It was a bit of a meh day, but it could have been worse. I mean, the nap was Sam Crow in that one, and then we carefully selected in the last who got chinned on the line by Katie Walsh. So if he'd won, it would have been a profitable day. A slight loss, but after Tuesday, we're still up.
That. Let's look forward to today as opposed to looking back first and get your thoughts on some of the big stuff. Do you agree with AP McCoy there? Could you hear what he was saying?
Yeah, I could hear what he was saying. I spoke to him last week, and I think Sam Spinner will love the ground. I think Super Sunday won't. I think Yanworth has been a bit in and out in his career. He did with an Aintree, but I'm not so sure if he's that well supported in the betting. The one I've gone for, guys, in the Stayers Hurdle, and this is my each way bet of the day. This is such an each way day, guys. Like the conditions, it was 9 millimetres of rain overnight. It's now soft, heavy in places. They're running on the new course today. So there are actually 2 courses at Cheltenham. There's a course adjacent to the other one. So it's the one big course, but they run on different ground today. But there's been a lot of rain overnight. It's going to be windy today, and it's going to be very testing out there. The horse I like in the Stayers Hurdle is Bacardi's, the top one, number 1, Willie Mullins. Has won a Grade 1 at Punchestown. He won Aintree. He was placed in the bumper here a few years ago. Now, Patrick Mullins has said in the Irish Independent today that the horse might prefer better ground, but this horse is an absolute gutsy battler. And I think at 10-1, he might be worth an each-way bet.
Did Bacardi's disappoint last year? I have a vague recollection of betting on Bacardi's.
First race at the festival, was it, John?
No, it was the first race on the second day, and he was hampered. He was nearly brought down early in the race, and that really effectively ruined his chance. So he never got a clear run, and then he came back to win at Punchestown. So I think he can draw a line through that, Ger, and not worry about that.
I'm always worried. I'm always worried about it. This horse is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
It's like George Bush. You can't get fooled again.
Yeah, well, I can't. All mug punters know that we can always be fooled again, John. That's our problem.
Well, no, you guys are rich now after Stamkos.
Well, okay, so Bacardi's each way. That's the 3:30. The Sunbet Stayers Hurdle. Let's go through the course then. The card rather. The JLT Novices Chase. Invitation only, trained by Willie Mullins. Here is the 3-1 favourite. What do you like?
Well, I think the favourite is good. I mean, Monolith franked their form yesterday by finishing second in the RSA Chase. I think it's an open race. I think Benatar is a good horse for Gary Moore, but will he like the ground? Not so sure. Phineas Oscar, not so sure about his jumping. He's had a wind operation. Kemboy's an improver for Willie Mullins. Modus I don't like. Terrafor is Nicky Henderson's 4-1 shot, who's a lot of good form for France, but to me he's too short in the betting. Shadowed Love has attracted a lot of support for Jack Kennedy and Gordon Elliott. Of course, they did a double yesterday, but she ran poorly at the festival last year. The one I've gone for, a speculative each way bet, is Snow Falcon at 16-1. He's a very good hurdler. He's been here to the festival before and run reasonably well. Noel Meade thought he could have run better at Leopardstown last time when he ran well in the Flowgas Novice Chase. And he's got decent form in hurdles. So I think Snow Falcon could outrun his odds at 16-1, but it's not a race I've got huge confidence in. Okay, I've just seen Snow Falcon on a bit of a drift this morning, out to 20s. We actually saw Tiger Roll drift a good bit yesterday, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything good or bad one way or the other, apart from you're getting a better price. No, it doesn't mean anything, Ger, at Cheltenham, I don't think. I think at maybe a different meeting with his less strength and depth, it might be an issue, but I don't think it's an issue at Cheltenham. We do see horses drift. I mean, Somerville Boy in the first day drifted from 7s to 9s and won, so I wouldn't be worried about that. I wouldn't put you off at all on Snow Falcon, but it's like €1 each way. Literally, it's €1 each way, folks. Grand. Okay, so the second race is the Pertemps. This is another handicap hurdle, and we're looking at Glen Lowe being the favourite here, about 13-2 for Barry Garrity on board, another Gordon Elliott horse. Yeah, 24 runners, folks. You know, it's tough. It's tough to find a winner of this. You know, and if you're behind this week and if you're looking to get out on this race, forget about it. The ones I liked actually are the top and the bottom. What's that? Was that Striker Lucky? Top and or bottom? Thomas Campbell, the very top horse. Nicky Henderson has won over soft ground on 3 miles in the course before. Ran very well at the festival last year, staying on. He's 25-1. He's got a really good claimer on board, James Bowen, so he could have an each way chance. But the one I've gone for is the bottom, A Great View. 12-1 for JP McManus's colours. Dennis Cullen trains. He's only got 10 stone 6 on his back. That'll be very important in the heavy ground. And I think he ran very well at Leopardstown at Christmas, and I think he's got a good each way chance. Okay, so Great View, around about 12-1 I'm looking at here, and JP has a whack of horses in this, so obviously he really enjoys these as well. Let's move on to the Ryanair Chase. What do you think is going to happen here, John? Well, I think Undersow, I mean, it's a disadvantage that Ruby Walsh is not riding him, because this is a very headstrong horse. He's a bit like, you know, you're on a roller coaster and you're just trying to hold on tight. And Ruby Walsh rode him brilliantly to victory last year. Will he like the trip on that ground? He does like soft ground, but probably over shorter. He's not a certainty. People are saying he's a certainty. He's not a certainty. Will Duvan run? Probably not. Q-Card to me is a great horse and a people's horse in England, but to me he's too old at 12 years of age. Abaco de Flo, I think the ground is gone for him. He also fell in the race last year. The one I like, now you've got a bit of ground to make up in terms of the ratings, but the one I like here, about 11-1, is Frodon. Paul Nicholls, course and distance winner on heavy ground, hammered Q-Star Civila and Shantou Flyer, who were first and second on Tuesday. I think Frodon is definitely a good bet to reach the frame. I'm a bit worried about the ground for Cloudy Dream. Okay, that's interesting. Why is Frodon so big if it's a winner over course and distance? Probably it was in a lesser grade race, Ger. So these other, like Undersow, Q-Card, will be running in better grade races. So they think that the people who do the weights would think that these are better quality horses than Frodon, but I actually think the conditions are going to suit Frodon. Okay, so there's a big enough price as well there. It's obviously a small race, so not a whole heap. You got to finish first or second basically to be finishing in the money. The next race is the Stayers Hurdle. We haven't. You already told us this. You like Bacardi's in that one, yeah. So no need for us to go through that again. The 4, the Brown Advisory and Maryville Stable Plate Handicap Chase. Yes, very, very well. You should be doing the presentation later, Jer. Sometimes a horse jumps off the page at you, and the horse that jumped off the page at me last night, number 9, Traffic Fluid, at 28-1. This horse has been running in much better races for the last couple of years, and he's been out with the washing. But he was only 7 lengths off the winner, Special Tiara, in the Champion Chase last year, staying on. I think he'll enjoy the trip. I think he'll enjoy the ground. He's down in grade, and I think at 28-1, I think he is a good each way bet. He's definitely one that I just spotted last night, and I could see him maybe outrunning his odds. Okay, so this is at 4:10. We're looking here at Traffic Fluid. You've picked a few big prices for us today, John. So you're giving people a bit of value for their money. And again, these are small bets at these prices, right? These are small bets at these prices. It's not a day like Tuesday when I put 200 on the nose for Charlie on footpad. And I thought he was a certainty. I don't really feel that. I feel confident today, but I feel confident for the value bets. All you need is one. Right, let's move on. The 10-5. This is the Trull House Stud Mares Novices Hurdle, and it looks like Lorena, trained by Willie Mullins, is going to go off the heavy odds-on favourite. Yeah, 6-4 on. I mean, he's had Let's Dance in this race and Limini in the last couple of years. I wouldn't be wading in, folks. I mean, the people who want to wade in Lorena and think she's an absolute certainty, but not these mares have not had that many races. We saw with Apple's J the other day that these horses can disappoint. And if you're looking to fill your boots on Lorena, I'd just be a little bit cautious. Now, she might win by 15 lengths. I just take. I mean, I'm in one of these moods today, folks, where I'm just having a look at outsiders or each way bets and actually horses that I think that might surprise. The one I've gone for is a horse that's never run in England or Ireland. I thought was very well touted for this race for about 6 months. Had a bit of a setback January or February, and then the snow came, so they haven't got a run into her. But Salsaretta, also from the same yard, at 14-1 for Willie Mullins, is a horse that interests me and could make the frame. Doesn't say she's going to beat Lorena, but she could make the frame. Okay, Salsaretta around about 14-1 in that one. And then the final race of the day is the Kim Muir. And Maldini looks like going off disputing favouritism in this one. Maldini tipped up a while ago by a lot of people at a slightly bigger price, down to around about 5-1. Squatter around about 11-2 at the moment. Yeah, and Squatter has it to prove to me in terms of his jumping. He was running well last year, but then he disappointed. And Maldini, I mean, I'm not so sure. I mean, I think he might prefer better ground. Of course, the Sable had a winner yesterday, so you can't knock them. They probably know more than I do. But the one I've gone for, this is going to be an absolute slog. It's going to be Mount Everest for these horses. And I think the one I've gone for is Final Nudge. He was third in the Welsh National. He was going well. He maybe didn't get home over 3 miles, 5 furlongs. But at 20-1, I think Final Nudge for David Dennis, with a very good amateur in the place, Barry O'Neill, I think has got an each way chance. Final Nudge. Good stuff, John. Thanks very much for that. We'll talk to you a little bit later on as well. All right, Chair. Cheers. Enjoy. You too. Around about 12:30, we have our daily Cheltenham special right here on all of our Off the Ball channels. Subscribe on youtube.com/Off the Ball, or you can subscribe as well on just hit the notifications button on Twitter at Off the Ball, and anytime we go live, we'll let you know about that one. Alan Quinlan's with us. Good morning to you.
Morning, Ger.
Scumbags, all of us.
Morning, on.
We're all a nation of scumbags.
Shower scumbags, yeah.
Angry with you about this?
He was dead right. Well, first of all, I think if there's an overreaction to this, it's wrong. Because we're all finished as ex-rugby players doing any sort of functions or dinners or having a bit of rugby banter because, like him or not, Eddie Jones, and he throws out these kind of barbs and he's a bit narky at times and he's kind of renowned for that. But I wouldn't be going hard on him over this. I think these rugby lunches, rugby dinners, I think it's wrong that somebody has recorded this and put it out there. The timing of it is very interesting. Who released it? Was there an Irishman in the room there going, this is great ammunition for me? Okay, I think he's apologised straight away, but to put it in context, you go to a lot of these rugby lunches, dinners, corporate events, and there's a bit of slagging. We slag the English all the time. Yeah, who cares? All the time. I heard people saying that, grist for the mill for Joe Schmidt and the players this week. If they more than anyone will understand that this is part and parcel of a bit of slagging and banter. There's a Grand Slam on the line. If they're going to be interested in anything that Eddie Jones has to say this week, then something has gone horribly wrong in their preparation. I think if he went publicly to a media source and was being interviewed and said, I don't like the Irish, they're scummy, they're this, that's different. Yeah. This is a bit of a banter. It's a corporate event. The thing is that we've been working out here. So the guy in the back of the video is Mike Lynch. He's apparently that's not his real name, but he's an SAS guy, potentially from the north.
and so therefore an Irish rugby fan.
Yeah,
and Eddie Jones
he
actually
references the Irish, the scummy Irish.
this
to
guy.
him. Yeah. So it's only a bit of banter. It's going to have no effect on Saturday, and Joe Schmidt won't be putting headlines up on the wall to say.
I mean, if he does, it'd be a miracle. I would be astounded.
If we beat them, he won't. If we beat them, there'll be a bit of.
Oh yeah.
Now Eddie, we're not the scummy Irish now, but honestly, you've been at a load of dinners, these events, Jared. There's a bit of slag and banter. It's Chatham House rules, which is basically you can identify the story but not the source.
Yeah.
In other words, you can go out and have a laugh and say, we heard this, this and this.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of what goes in tour stays in tour type scenario. And it's wrong. I think no person... Like, I've been at lunches and dinners with Martin Bayfield, for example. He's absolutely brilliant. Vulgar sometimes, slags the Irish... loads of banter, and we just laugh at it. It's not meant. It's just in jest and it's fun. And they always say, "Don't ever let the truth get in the way of a good story," and that's just the way it is. And the worry.
He was right about Wales.
I have
right? He was right about Wales. We all think that.
Well, I'm not saying that, Ger, now, because that'll be another story today if Alan Quinlan says Wales is a shithole. It's not. Wales is a lovely place, so I'm watching it. Yeah, it'll be clipped today. But the worry I have for Eddie Jones is he's after dinner speaking and he's corporate speaking. Nobody laughed at his jokes.
I know, yeah, we had a laugh
I'd be more worried. Nobody laughed.
He wasn't very talented.
No, not very good.
Like, it was very inarticulate for somebody
I'll not be booking him, will you?
No, very like 20 grand a pop. No, thanks.
I do think I'm with you on it, but I do think in terms of distributing it, like it was Fuso Talks, whatever that is, like their version of TED Talks. So it was always going to be recorded, and like he surely would have known that this was going to get like disseminated. And I'd say he's surprised that it's taken until now for this thing to get out, because it was at an event, a corporate event, which like they have their own YouTube channel. Admittedly, that video has now been taken down, but they all get put up, all these videos. So that's the one thing I've got a little bit of surprise about. But I'm with you on the whole thing about getting offended about this thing.
You said it was going to be a distraction, though. Do you stand by that?
The thing that I think could be a certain distraction is the effort of cleaning up yesterday evening. I don't think there was a big clean-up operation required, but I think if it's going to take their eye off the ball a little bit, there was kind of... Let's just say Eddie Jones wouldn't have wanted it to happen this week.
Yeah, there's been no hype about the Irish this week. It's been all the referee, Van der Westhuizen, on Tuesday, and now this story yesterday. And, there's been no hype about what's going on in the Irish camp, which is brilliant. It's nice and quiet. Not that it makes a huge difference, because when you're in that group anyway, English camp, Irish camp, there might be stories going on around which people think they're distractions. They're not. The focus is on for both sides is to get their own house in order, get their plan in place and all that stuff. It just creates a bit of a story, doesn't it? Oh, there was distraction. Oh, there was pressure on all week. Oh, there was this story, that story. I don't think it'll make any difference come Saturday. The reality here, Jerry, is you have a wounded animal who are going to come out to try and protect their own home turf, protect their careers. Some of these guys may not see a World Cup next year with Jones if they don't perform.
Well, 3 in a row, he's going to be looking at.
Yeah, it could be the last time they play in an English jersey.
I want to talk about the other issue that you brought up there, which is the officials. So Dave O'Shaughnessy has been in touch this morning to say surely there should be more controversy about Saturday's linesman joining the English team this week for guidance. A terrible decision to agree to this. Should step down from Saturday's game. Here's Keith Wood's thoughts on that last night.
Well, whatever about frustrating, I think the idea of having a referee train with you is excellent. Who in the right mind thought it was appropriate for the touch judge for the game that's coming up to be involved in the training session? I mean, the lack of forethought, both from the English side and from World Rugby's referees, to allow that to happen it's just a bit daft, and I think it puts the additional scrutiny on the referees, and they're under huge scrutiny anyway. And we often talk about the fact that they're under an awful lot of pressure all the time, and much and all as I used to fight with referees a lot when I played, I would have a lot of time for them. I think they have an incredibly difficult job. This just makes it much worse and much harder for them. And I think there probably is a case for saying that even though it fits into their rulings that this is what they do and they think this is allowable, I think there's a case for him not being involved at the weekend.
I remember, and I've brought this up on the show multiple times, before the Ireland All Blacks game in Dublin, watching the referee do his warm-up in the behind the goal area where the All Blacks were warming up, and he was chatting away to them, having the crack, and they were coming over going, "Oh, ref, how are you?" Sleazing over him the way you would, like, Sleazy McSleaze, right?
Is that Nigel Owens?
No, I think it was Jaco Piper.
That was a couple of years ago.
It was
13, was it?
Yeah, it was after we'd beaten them in Chicago.
The one in November, last November, sorry.
Where they then proceeded to come out and knock out Robbie Henshaw and a couple of others with massive high tackles.
Yeah.
That should have been straight reds.
Should have been straight red.
There weren't even yellows.
For the tackle on Zebo.
And
Fekatoa.
And so there's no influence from being friends with the referee. There's no influence from like, here, touch judge, look at how he's boring in here. Look at how Cian Healy's doing this. And your man's like, yeah, that's exactly what you said to me the other day.
I agree with you 100%. If the linesman is there and the assistant referee Van der Westhuizen on Saturday and he's done a scrummaging session, refereed a scrummaging session, which he would have done, and he sees Mako Vunipola, and Mako Vunipola said, am I okay to do this, and am I all right here, and is this bind okay, and stuff like that. And then Mako kind of does something a little bit illegal on the side of the scrum on Tyke Furlong, and he's on that side and he doesn't pull it. Can it influence you? Of course it can. If I was a player, it would drive me mad if I saw Jaco Piper down with the All Blacks and he's chatting away and walking around. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm about to go to war with these guys, and you're kind of having a laugh and joke with them. You're supposed to be down the middle. Now, the referees are very professional, but it's just that split decision. Would it affect their mindset a little bit?
Isn't it human nature?
Would Van der Westhuizen on Saturday, will he call a potential offside in midfield against England for Ireland to win a Grand Slam? With a crowd baying down on top of him. These are the questions that'll be answered after Saturday. But I think what Joe Schmidt has done has been the right thing. He was contacted, and I'm sure he voiced his displeasure. I can't say he has, but I'm sure he's voiced his displeasure. If I was him, I would, and said, look, do you want to play the referee removed? Because I know that option was being thrown around. Remove him from the match on Saturday, and I think the message back was no. So I think it's probably in our favour maybe to leave him there now a little bit.
Is it? That's a high wire act.
Is there a bit of pressure on him now to make sure that, but look, familiarity breeds contempt, isn't that what they say? So he's familiar with the English guides, so we'll wait and see. Look, I'm sure there'll be extra scrutiny on him now to be whiter than white, if you like. And Angus Gardner he's the man in the middle. He's got to control these guys, and you often
judges are important though for a lot of things.
Very important. They're massive. Massive for decisions on the opposite side. The referees can't see. Was there a little knock on? Was there someone held back with a jersey? I know the TMO helps a lot and very important, but it's been a couple of big things that won't please the English Rugby Union this week with the referee and the Eddie Jones comments.
Well, will they be disappointed with the referee, or will they think, actually, we're going to continue to do this type of stuff because ultimately in the long run we feel it's going to benefit us? Because they must have known somewhere along the way. Everybody knew, the touch judge is coming in this weekend to do a session with our lads. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Eddie Jones was said, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and it just kind of slipped in under the radar, this one. But England's discipline against France was poor. A lot of penalties, a lot of turnovers.
2 games in a row.
So I think that's the reason they bring him in. They say, right, help us with the breakdown. Maybe our interpretations are not right. Talk to my players. Which is effectively, he's coming in coaching English guys the week before they play under his massive test. So it's ridiculous. It's very wrong. And there's definitely a case to say that he shouldn't be involved on Saturday.
And also, it shouldn't be Joe Schmidt's decision to do that, because that then in future...
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the old scenario of the sightings scenario where the sighting commissioner come in afterwards and go to both coaches and say, well, have you got anything? Even though there might be something there, and they kind of go, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whereas this decision should have been made by World Rugby.
Yeah.
He should have been stood down, I think, because he's compromised a little bit. This is the thing that I would be
pinning up on the dressing room wall. Like, look at what they've done. Yeah. Look at how insidiously they've cheated this week by getting that guy in to coach them. So you guys get in his ear early and you talk to him and you go, did you see anything in training last week? Did you see what he was doing? You must have spotted that last week.
Yeah.
We know you're good.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of scrutiny on him because he's effectively in coaching the English what to do on Saturday. Now, I think Angus Gardner is a really good referee, the Australian, and I think he'll make his own decisions. And he is quite clear and precise in what he wants. So I'm sure both coaches will have spoken to him, which is kind of part of the match day process. They may meet him Friday night or they may meet him on Saturday. That option is there for the coaches. So I'm sure Joe Schmidt will meet him and speak to him.
Let's talk a little bit about the England team. Hartley and Elliot Daly have been past fit, according to one of the backroom staff yesterday. So we would expect them both to start. Hartley, I think they love Hartley and they love the abrasiveness and they love that he is kind of the spiritual leader for the team, and they've missed that when he hasn't been in the team recently. Definitely Eddie Jones and Dylan Hartley are cut from the same cloth, about the same size.
Yeah, he likes him. He's backed him when there's been a lot of calls for him not to play. I think he likes that solidity that he gives him, maybe scrummaging and line-out wise, whereas Jamie George is probably he's probably more, I suppose, dynamic around the field. But if you go back to the Lions last year, George was outstanding for the Lions in New Zealand. So
yeah,
I don't get it. I think it's probably unfortunate for the likes of Jamie George, who's come into the team because of Hartley missing the game in Paris, and then they lose and everyone says, oh, you got to bring him back. So fortunate for Hartley and unfortunate for George. Elliot Daly's a really good player. He's a smashing player. I think he's an outstanding talent, great footballer, good pace. And it was interesting, I was chatting to Will Greenwood the last few days, and he was saying this fella, he rates him unbelievably highly, and he wants to see him in the centre. He wants to see him as a 13, because get the ball in his hands early. He's an intelligent footballer. He's quick. He's strong. The one for me is the back row, where I played myself. Their balance has been totally wrong. They've been beaten on the ground. I think in their success of winning 22 or 23 matches, was it?
Yeah.
Or how many?
22 of 23.
22 of 23, yeah. We stopped that record, of course, in 19, wasn't it? Their success was based around physically imposing themselves as well, beating teams up, being big, strong, usually what you expect from English pack of forwards. I think the game has even moved on another level this year with the way people are attacking the breakdown, and they've struggled. They've struggled to identify a proper 7, someone who's a forager, can get on the ball, create those turnovers. And to be fair, Rob Shaw's come under a fair bit of pressure playing that role in the last few weeks, because they haven't got a 7.
Well, Rob Shaw's a 6.5, as Eddie Jones says.
Yeah, and I think he actually played well in Paris, but the back row has been wrong, and I think they've beaten at the breakdown. So they need to sort that out. They brought in Don Armand, whether he'll start.
Is there a case for Armand because Simmons might play at 8 and you've got 2 Exeter boys there, and it could be just, I suppose, cohesion? That might be as simple as that?
Yeah, for sure. But I think Underhill was probably Sam Underhill, who used to play with the Ospreys, went to Bath. I watched him a lot. He was kind of the great white hope that would fill this 7 jersey. He's picked up an injury in the last week. He may be back in contention. But Don Armand is a good player, very, very abrasive, and he's still not your traditional 7. So with all the players in England that they have, they can't find a 7, a real traditional 7 who will give them.
Because the league doesn't.
And of all the pack of forwards, they can actually take a smaller 7 and manage that situation, no problem, because they're so big in the front 5, second row. 10 is the other one, isn't it? George Ford. I think.
Just before we go on about 7, it seems like they're suggesting a single personnel change will alter their approach at the breakdown, and that might be the case. But it seems like the great teams, everybody has a responsibility to get in and try and be that jackal person, as opposed to, oh, well, the 7, that's your job and you're going to do that, and the rest of us are going to stand there and go, well, there's no 7 here, I'm not going to do it.
But a lot of their turnovers, Jared, are coming off first, second, third phase, which traditionally your back row will be hovering. Obviously, when you get into multi-phase, it can happen anywhere. And
is it an attitude thing, though, or will one person actually change?
I don't think just a 7. I don't think one person. I think the balance in the back row. They haven't. And we hear, what's this balance in the back row? So traditionally, you want someone who's abrasive, aggressive, a good line-out option at 6. Get in your faces, upset the opposition a bit,
carry a bit.
Yeah, be decent at the breakdown as well. And harass the opposition a bit. You want a number 8 who's intelligent, who knows when to release the ball, who's a good ball carrier, who's a good link man, and probably a good leader, because you have a bit of decision making going on there. And then you want your 7 just going after the halfbacks, putting pressure on Conor Murray at the weekend, tearing into Sexton's face off the back of lineouts and stuff like that, and just tracking across the field. If there is a tackle, if Bundyaki carries, that he's the first man in there checking to see if there's any options. So they haven't got that balance right. They've gone for power, size, and try to run out over people, and they struggle in that department.
When was the last time you've seen such a disparity in the standard of the breakdown between Ireland and England? Ireland have won the most rucks in the Six Nations so far. England have lost the most rucks so far in the Six Nations. It's been close to a disaster for them in that department.
Well, and you know what? Because of their dominance under Eddie Jones, winning 22 or 23 before this tournament, I think they've taken it for granted a little bit that it'll just click back into place. You've got to work on this stuff week after week after week. This is the contact that none of us liked in training, where you got to go out and do some breakdown work. Even if you have a good performance, you look for different ways, different techniques, different vulnerability in the opposition. And I'm not sure if England have really put a focus on that. They've maybe taken it for granted a little bit. And then they've just come unstuck. Scotland were fantastic. Watson, Barkley, Wilson, they just destroyed them in that area. McInally, the hooker, got a couple of turnovers. And you cannot play rugby on in the modern day game if your ball is slow. Even if it's not been turned over, it's been slowed 2 or 3 seconds. The opposition get a chance to set their defence, and then you got a kick. So it's an attitude thing as well as a technique thing. And I think there'll be massive focus this week. And don't be surprised. It's no rocket scientists will figure this out. They will come out and try and physically dominate Ireland in the collision areas.
He talked about not having enough power last week. I was like, come on.
Well, that's a joke. When you see the size of the pack with...
Courtney Laws at 6 last week. Now, Laws is obviously injured, so that automatically improves the balance of the back row?
You cannot play a second row in the back row. It's wrong. It happens in club games and provincial games in Europe and through injury. Some guys can do it. Someone like Tyg Byrne now has that flexibility because he can play in the back row. And Laws is a really good player. But Launchbury, Itoje and Laws are the 3 second rows. And they should rotate them, bring one off the bench, whatever, but not play a 6. Just, it's a bit of an insult to all the other 6s and back rows in England, and they have plenty of them. So I think that's where he's got it wrong.
In a way that actually doesn't suit us. If Laws was still playing, it would have been better.
Absolutely. And he's an aggressive player. He's hard.
Yeah.
I played against him when he was, obviously, a number of years ago. He's very experienced now, and you saw the impact he made in New Zealand as well, being involved in the Lions tour. He's a really good player. Itoje looks tired, fatigued. Is that dangerous? Could he have a storm on Saturday? Of course he could.
Yeah.
But the English Lions players have played more minutes than our Lions players. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And will they get a spring in their step for Saturday? I've no doubt in my mind that they'll be chomping at the bit, and there isn't a performance in them. So I think we have to up our level of performance. We won't beat England by containing them. We've got to play, and I think we've got to go after them.
What about the line-out? I mean, obviously England targeted the French line-out pretty well. Does Joe Schmidt automatically think, I've got to start Devon Toner?
No, he doesn't. I think he's got to start. It'll be in his thought process, and that'll be Simon Easterby's feedback to Joe as well. So we went in last year when a few eyebrows raised into the game in the Aviva when Devon didn't start, and it was Donnacha Ryan and Henderson, and I was a little bit concerned. But O'Mahony's a world-class line-out operator. He's very, very, not just with his ability to go on the air, his intelligence and reading the line-out.
So he would call it?
No, I think Henderson will call it if he comes in. But I think just having the option of going to O'Mahony, he's a real go-to man. Yeah. And even if you're trying to, that area is hard to defend. James Ryan is no slouch in the line-out either.
No, but the line-out hasn't been as steady as you would expect a Joe Schmidt set piece to be over the course of the campaign so far.
I think before the Scottish game, I think we had lost maybe 2 out of 27 or 8. The couple last week, there was 2 last week that we lost. They were crucial scores.
One we kicked to a corner.
And to be honest, Ger, in a game like this on Saturday, one line-out can change the whole course of the game.
It's just Scotland. Like, there's been a weird analysis of the Scotland game. It's like, we're going for Grand Slam. Scotland should have run in 4 tries against us. Crappy handling and throwing the ball over heads. And,
well, I would say 2. The possibility of 4. But I'd say 2 definitely, yeah. And then the possibility.
Different complexion on that score if they're ahead at half-time as opposed to us.
Yeah, for sure.
So we kind of forgot about that. It's still a little bit of concern. Like, England won't
to be fair to the first one, I think, and this is the dangerous part of clearing your lines. When you mistouch or not put it in the stand, they can take a quick one, 2 passes, Hugh Jones, then he shows a bit of brilliance, and we have to applaud that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to applaud that and say, well done. We haven't been cut open where they ran through us. Should have been a try. There was another one where I think Dan Levy just got a little bit narrow. The ball gets outside him. There's a gap on the outside channel. And I think it was Peter Horn this time who just butchered a chance. He should have given a short pass. He went for the wide pass, straight into touch. So there was a couple of options there that would concern me. But I think their defence, it improved from Wales, particularly in the wider channels, with the connectivity.
Yeah.
It has to get better again because England will be.
It's hard when it's Ringrose first game back and everybody's just adapting to exactly how he defends. But I don't know. It's hard to call. I think England are slight favourites for this game.
I agree. I think before the tournament, I said I thought we'd win the championship, but possibly lose in Twickenham. Not a lot has changed in my head.
Yeah.
Bar England are poor. They have been poor. Can they just turn it on Saturday? We'll have to wait and see. I think they're capable of being a lot better. And, you know, our history there is actually not bad. From 2000 onwards, we have a couple of great victories. Our last victory there was 2012. So it's a very tough place to go. We've only won a Grand Slam twice in our history. So there's a couple of things going against us. This is the third one we're going for. Having France and England away and winning Grand Slams it's always a bit harder. So I think this will be a fantastic achievement if Ireland were to do it. It's going to be very difficult.
I don't remember the game in 2012 for whatever reason.
I don't know. Let me see.
Did we win it well or?
I just got to make sure I got it right. Yeah, no. We were beaten in 2012, 30 points to 9. Sorry. I'm skimming here at...
2010.
Yeah, 2010. It's that one, 2010. 20 points to 16. Yeah, we got walloped in 2012. So it's a hard place to go. It's a very, very hard place to go and get a result. So
it's unbelievably close always.
I think if they pick Farrell, they'll make him more robust, more aggressive, probably physically more dominant in that.
A boring game in a way. Like, it's not that he's not creative. It's just that they've decided that they're going to bosh it up the middle with Ben.
Well, I think they're desperate for results, so I think it won't matter to Eddie Jones what way they play or how they win. I think they'll try and steamroll Ireland. But I think there's enough experience in the Irish team, enough of characters, and hopefully we can improve a little bit. If we get a bit more improvement in our performance and our attack and a bit more ruthless, I think it sets up for a great opportunity. And we're well capable of doing it, Jared, but you know, it isn't easy. It's not easy. People keep asking me, will we win? Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
It's a 50-50 game. If we get it right,
it's literally
we have a great chance.
Make it a coin toss. Like, you could see it being a 9-9 or a 15-9 draw or like a blowout for one team as well. No, I don't think we're going to get blown out. But
if we get a good start in the game, I think that's where a little bit of panic may set in for them.
Oh, please God, let that happen.
If they get a good start and get a wave towards us, will they get confidence and will the crowd get behind them and stuff?
That'll definitely happen.
The pressure, there's more pressure on them because I think there's careers on the line here. There's a lot of these first time Eddie Jones has come under this kind of scrutiny. Even that story, people I watched online, some of the English journalists just loved to get that story out. So he may not be that popular with them either.
No, he's not.
So there's a few people waiting in the grass for him here.
Oh, there's lots of stories floating around that.
Just last final point, Johnny Sexton, you've mentioned that it could be a 9-all, could be 15. It could be. It's probably going to be less than 20 points for both sides here. So this whole thing around Johnny Sexton gets a heightened importance now. Are you worried at all about kicking off the tee and that extra practice that had to go in yesterday? Or was it extra practice actually? Is probably the question here. It seems like normal
practice. Yeah, it's normal practice for a 10. I think the couple he missed against Wales was probably down to just a little lapse of concentration, or just he actually struck the ball quite well, but just the direction was off a little bit. I don't have any concerns for him. I think he's massive character, and if he gets the opportunities, I'd back him to kick them. I think this side has an ability, even if their back is against the wall, to find a score, whether it be from a penalty or a try. So I'm confident that he can do that on Saturday. And I think Sexton, his presence is phenomenal.
He's playing well, just that back injury has prevented him from doing his normal kicking practice. So hopefully this week is fine and he gets 100 out of 100. That'd be good.
Hopefully they stay in the field, Murray, Sexton, because I think if Murray, Sexton play well,
we're going to win.
We're in a brilliant position. We're going to win. If they get their games to 90-95%, which they're capable of, and we've seen that in the history of the big results we've got. When those two guys are going well, the whole team just follow.
Alan, good stuff. Enjoy the game. And congratulations, you're back. You're in a full Six Nations campaign. You haven't missed a game.
I haven't missed a game, no.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
Right, we'll obviously have more from Alan next week, and tonight on the radio we've got a full special for you from the National Concert Hall last night. The Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club was there. Martin Johnson joined Joe Malloy and Brian O'Driscoll, and yes, they did indeed talk about the red carpet.
Three was very, very comfortable. It was very, the atmosphere was unbelievable, wasn't it? Unbelievable. So we get to the stadium and we go out and we warmed up at that side. And then you won the toss. We went to toss the coin, and I was unbelievably tense. And you were a relatively young captain for Ireland, weren't you, second year?
Five or six games into it, yeah.
Nervous looking. I was trying to be... You were?
What?
I was very nervous. I was faking not being nervous.
That's my shitting my pants look.
Yeah. Well, I was twice as bad, but I was faking it, because you have to learn how to fake it. But it was just, it was. But when you play a game like that, it's you against the world a little bit, because the crowd's there. So we went out. You chose to play that way. You attacked the end. We warmed up out. Yeah. So I just naturally went out to the right-hand side, because we'd warmed up that side. So we lined up, and the thing that set it off was the guy who asked me to move was not the referee. If the referee had said to me, "You're that side," we'd have just moved, because it wouldn't have been a big deal. It wasn't a big deal, the actual moving. But it was. Now, I don't want to disrespect the guy who came out, but he was in a donkey jacket, I think. Was he the groundsman's assistant?
I don't even know. Was he the stadium announcer?
No, he wasn't. He didn't look like a stadium announcer. And at that point, when you're a couple of minutes away. I mean, sometimes, I don't know if it was when we tossed up, about 15 minutes before the game, an Irish official came up with a shirt for me to sign. And I said, mate, go away, I'll do it after. You've got no idea what you're going through 15 minutes before kickoff in one of the biggest games of your life. So you're getting revved up to play. At that point, I'm going to listen to my team, my people, and the referee. That's it, full stop, in the world. So when this guy comes out and says, "Oh, move the fellas down there," I said, "No, we're not going anywhere, just get on with the game." And the crowd went absolutely crazy. Because they were ready, they were very hyped up. They were absolutely bananas. And if you look at the tape, I've got Graham Rowntree and Neil Back next to me. And Backy just goes, he's very cold, Backy. He just went, "Can't move now." And I was looking, it's quite cringeworthy watching that, but I was looking at Graham Rowntree. He's got this silly smirk on his face, because he knows you're in that mood, and I'm stomping up and down. And then a guy in a blazer came out and said, "Oh, you've got to go that side." And I said, that's when it all sort of kicked off. And then there was this pause, wasn't there? Because I saw you guys sort of trudging up this way, and I thought, what are they doing?
I had my own dilemma. I'll tell it in a second when you finish.
Because you were looking a bit hesitant walking up, and I thought you were going to the far end, to the terrace, to rev up the crowd. Honestly, I didn't know. There was a pause then. It seemed like a pause. And I remember thinking, what happens now? Do they call the police? Do they move? I don't know. And I was genuinely just...
Because you don't.
Because you got yourself in a position then, haven't you?
Well, I mean, as Back said, you can't move now, but you don't look in. Like it looks like there's no doubt. It looks like there's no fear. It's like I'm not moving. It's really interesting to hear that behind the scenes you were thinking.
That's the sort of, when you're about to play, that's the mood you're in anyway.
Yeah, great stuff from Martin Johnson last night. You can hear the whole thing on Off the Ball on the radio this evening. Now, Andy Lee, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, Jay.
It's a busy week and there's loads of news to get to, but the main reason you're here is because we've got Ryan Burnett on the line ahead of an absolutely massive fight for him. Ryan, good morning to you as well.
Morning, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Looking bright and fresh this morning, Ryan.
Going straight back to bed after this.
Is today your off day?
Today's my off day, so...
Oh, sorry for dragging you up in the morning.
Aye, all right.
Fair play to you. How are you getting on? How's your training going?
Adam's just shouted in the background. He knows Thursdays is an off day.
Some days it's a Wednesday, some weeks it's a Wednesday, so tell Adam it's his fault for the inconsistency.
We can't see him, but he was.
How are you, Boo? You're doing good. You're live on Irish.
Mornings now then, huh?
Yeah, I'm on the morning show now to get me up.
A normal life.
Yeah, well, I'm up early with the baby, so it's good.
How is she?
She's doing great, yeah. She's doing great. Right, Claire.
So you got 3 for 1.
Yeah. Ryan, you're preparing for this fight just over 3 weeks, over 3 weeks ago, a couple of days over 3 weeks. Jan-Fres Parejo. What do you know about him? What's your assessment of him? What do you think of him?
He's a good boxer. He's very clean. He does the basics very well. Adam's looked at him, studied him, and Adam's told me exactly what to do. So day in, day out, we're in the gym and we're just practicing on the correct techniques, what to do on the night to get the win.
He's a very slick boxer. From what I've seen of him, like you have one shared opponent, Zakyanov, your last fight, and that was a very, very close fight. You know how tough Zakyanov is yourself. Yeah. Have you watched that fight? Have you studied it? What do you take away from that fight, or the fact that they fought so closely? Kind of know that you're in for a hard fight.
Yeah, well, if I'm honest, I don't rely on that. People are saying to me, you beat a guy who beat him. How does that make you feel and stuff? And to be honest, I'm not relying on that at all. I'm just going in the gym every day and focusing on exactly what I have to do to be able to beat him. Yeah,
but in that fight, it could have went either way. It was a very, very close fight, so
it was.
You were right to have that attitude.
It was a close fight, so it just goes to show that I can't overlook anybody. You know, I know exactly what I'm in for on the night, but I've been here before, I've done it all before, and I know exactly what to do. And
just going back to your training now, you're training alongside Michael Conlon, who's just joined the gym. Obviously, Josh Kelly's been there with you now for the last year or so. How is it going? Are you working together? Are you pushing each other on, or how's it working with those guys?
It's brilliant. It's a really, really good buzz at the moment. We're all talented lads, and we're all bounce off each other. And if one of us see the other one working harder, then we all want to jump on board and work hard. So it's good. There's a good energy in the gym at the moment.
You being now you're a world champion, and I know you're only 25, but you're the oldest or the most experienced of the lads. Definitely. Yeah. Do you feel there's an onus on you to be the leader in the gym now that I'm gone?
Yeah. I don't know. I've sort of taken over your role. People come to me and ask me for questions. When you used to be in the gym, everyone used to come to you and ask you questions. So now I've sort of taken over that role a little bit.
And what about this? I'll show you a spar with Michael Conlon now. Can you give us any insight into how those have gone?
Yeah, we started doing at the start. It was a bit tense between us both, but we got warmed into the sparring and we started giving each other a bit of a bashing, which was all fun and games.
You punched the tension out of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're fighting March 31st. One of the chief supports of Anthony Joshua's fight, a huge unification heavyweight fight. Yeah. In the Principality Stadium, huge arena. How are you feeling about that? Is there any nerves, or what's your mental approach to this fight?
To be honest, I'm just looking at it like every other fight. It's just another fight to me. If I'm honest, it doesn't really matter whereabouts in the world it would be. I'd be going there with the same attitude and the same mindset of exactly what to do. And that's just the way I'm approaching this one. I'm focused on the fight and I know exactly what to do, and that focus is just going to prepare me for anything that happens on the night. So walking out to a massive stadium of 80,000, if I'm honest, I don't think it's gonna faze me at all.
Well, knowing you, I think you'll get a great buzz from it, and it'll even raise your level. But there's a great show on Sky On Demand if anyone's got it. It's called Ryan Burnett, My Greatest Night, and you can download it and watch it. In that show, you talk about just switching off, or just you click your fingers in the show. What have you done to have that? Have you worked on that, consciously worked on that kind of switch? You've talked about switching on when you walk into the dressing room, then when you walk into the fight, switching off. What have you done to prepare that way and to be ready to be able to do that?
It's all about working on your subconscious mind, and what you tell your subconscious mind is what your body will do naturally. So through training camp, I work on my subconscious mind, constantly repeating stuff. So when the time comes, I can switch off my body, and my body knows exactly what to do without me consciously trying to control it. So during my training camps, I keep telling myself things, what to do in different situations, and gradually that sinks into my subconscious mind. So on the night, I don't need to think. My body already knows exactly what to do.
What are you telling yourself, and how did you get good at this? How did you learn all that stuff?
To be honest, I've been looking at it for years and years, and I started talking to Adam about it, and Adam agrees about the subconscious mind and how the mind works and stuff. So we both sit down and we both talk about things, about different shot selections and what to do in different times, and sort of you keep repeating yourself these things, and on the night they happen naturally.
Have you done this before? Is this like perfecting the strategy at this point for you, or is this kind of the beginning of it?
No, I think in the past I've done it quite a bit in my career, but I've never really did it to a big level. It was sort of just myself doing it. But about a year ago, I started talking to Adam about it, and he couldn't agree more. And since then, we just work on it bit by bit. I would talk to him about stuff, he would talk to me about stuff, and we would just work on it. And like I said, you build it up in your subconscious mind, and on the night it happens, and you're not in control of it. It's just happening. Everything that you've told your body what to do, it sort of just does by itself.
Do you have triggers then in the middle of the fight where if things aren't going your way, or if you come out and you start to think about stuff, that you can go back into them?
Yeah, that's just all about how you focus your mind and how you prepare your mind. I think I'm very good at preparing my mind correctly, so I know when to switch on, switch off, and how to, if anything happens in the fight. Like when I fought Haskins, I got a massive cut in my head, and I could immediately refocus myself, and instantly just forgot about it and cracked on with exactly what I needed to do.
Andy, you worked, I think, with Jerry Hussey for a while, the sports psychologist. Was it this kind of stuff that you were doing, or was it?
That was very early when I was still an amateur. Yeah, but I think, like Ryan said, you kind of constantly you're doing it yourself when you're training as a fighter, because you have to kind of talk to yourself every session, especially when you're training with Adam. You know, the sessions are brutal, so you're kind of talking to yourself all the time, and then. With Adam, he's very much part, like he like more than other trainers that I've worked with, the mental side of the game. He very much is hands-on with that and talks about that. And I think it's individual to each fighter that he'll like tailor, some sort of. I'm sure, like with Ryan, it's kind of affirmations. And with me, it was different things. Like you just would say a couple of words like loose, keep your shoulders loose, keep stepping the feet, and that would always trigger something else in me. That would kind of reset me. If he saw me kind of going down getting tense or going down a path in a fight that was against the game plan, he would just say a couple of words and that would kind of reset me. But Ryan seems to have gotten it himself, to a sense that, especially watching that show on Sky Sports, that he got cut and within a second he was back on the game. It didn't bother him at all. He'd never been cut in his life before that point. So Ryan is one of, like, you just see Ryan train. He's one of the mentally, he's very tough. Mentally, he's very, very tough because he pushes himself every day. Right, I just wanted to ask you, like, now that you have your former unified champion, now that you are world champion, are you worried about that hunger? Now that you're kind of living more, you're in your life, you're more comfortable in yourself, you've achieved your goal, you're more at peace. Do you worry about losing that hunger in any sense?
Not one bit. When I came over here on our first week, we were doing the hill sprints, and I did the hill sprints, and Adam had told me take it easy because I haven't trained for so long, and I pushed myself to the absolute limit.
I heard you were puking.
I was vomiting and to get into the car, and I wasn't feeling too good. So I definitely know that the drive's still there. Definitely.
Good stuff. Good to hear.
What's next for you then? Obviously, this fight's a huge fight for you, but have you mapped out? Are you allowed as a fighter to think beyond, this is what I would like the next couple of years to look like? Because you're getting very close to being somebody who's going to be involved in super fights pretty soon.
No, I don't. In the boxing sense, I don't look too far ahead. I only focus on what's right in front of me. I don't look over that in any way at all. So I'm just completely focused on March 31st, and once I've won on March 31st, I'll then look at what's next.
In terms of the division as a whole, Ryan, what's your view on it kind of on a worldwide level? Are you watching many fighters? Like, I know we were chatting with Andy a couple of weeks ago about the likes of Lewis Neri and stuff like that. I mean, is he a boxer you like to watch? Is there an influence, I guess is what I'm asking here, that's currently fighting in the ring around the world?
I don't look at any boxer. I really don't care about any bantamweight in the world. I just focus on myself. I don't go and study other people on my weight. That's Adam's job. I just completely focus on myself.
I mean, obviously that gives you a lot of self-confidence. In terms of like just understanding exactly what the challenges are in the division, you don't do any analysis really, or do you allow the analysis to come to you? I guess you've kind of answered that a little bit by saying you let Adam do that, but
Yeah.
are you curious about what they're doing and what's successful for them?
No, I'm not curious one bit. This guy Pereiro, who I'm boxing, I've never watched him. Adam showed me a quick 30-second clip of him, and that was all I really needed to see. I leave it down to Adam. Adam comes into the gym and says, right, this is the shot that's going to work and this is the shot that isn't going to work, so you have to do this and you don't do this. And that's just what I completely focus on.
Last question then for you. In terms of the next couple of weeks, you begin to taper down relatively soon. How is the weight going for you? Are you an angry last couple of weeks? Looking forward to a nice meal afterwards, or are you okay with the weight at the minute?
Yeah, I'm okay at the weight. Everyone in the gym says I'm a bit aggressive or so, but I don't think I am whatsoever. I think I'm completely fine. So, yeah, I feel good.
Smile, so it's almost like you don't believe it.
I don't know. It's hard to say. They all say I'm really aggressive and I get very moody, but I just think I'm a nice, easygoing lad.
What's the truth, Andy?
Well, he has a nickname. I don't know if he'd like me to reveal it now. But it kind of reveals a lot about himself. Ryan, can I tell him your nickname?
It's not a nickname.
Yeah.
So don't put it out there as if it's a nickname. It is no nickname. It's just something that the lads call me a little bit.
We call him the Piranha. Ryan the Piranha. Because, well, he's hungry in terms of his desire, but he's also hungry when he's getting down to 8'6". He's a very, he would take your head off if you say the wrong word. But congratulations, Ryan, and good luck with the fight. And,
cheers, mate.
You know, we're all in your corner.
Cheers.
Thanks a million for joining us. Good man. Thanks a million.
Nice one. Thanks very much.
Adam Booth, obviously in the background shouting, I agree as well.
Well, I know Ryan's probably like sitting behind the laptop that he's on is probably like Adam, you know, and they're all probably making faces. Yeah, Josh, and I think Michael Conlon's gone to America now already. But yeah. So it seems like they've gotten a good, just from looking at their Instagram and stuff like that. And Adam's been sending me videos. They've struck up a good friendship himself, Burnett, Conlon Burnett and Kelly. And they're all around the same age and kind of seems like they're that same generation, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of.
What's the tension that he was talking about there? Just
I don't think they would have been that not friendly, but they wouldn't have knew each other because they never would have came across each other that much. They fought each other as amateurs, right. Burnett and Conlon. So they wouldn't have been. They wouldn't. Conlon won it. Yeah, Burnett thinks he won it. It's disputed. You know, it was a fight in the stadium. So. Since then they wouldn't have probably seen each other, wouldn't have been in the same circle. So I'm sure now they, you know, the respect is earned.
Yeah,
it is earned in that gym.
There's clearly an unbelievable amount of trust there between Ryan and Adam, as in when he says there that he does all the prep for the opponent, and I'm just going to load myself up with whatever he says. And that thing that he talks about in terms of the subconscious is also very interesting, that you're essentially putting your entire fate in somebody else's hands to train you in that way, that you will become capable of fighting this opponent, and it's loaded into your subconscious on that level. So there's a lot going on there, and ultimately it's all down to the trust that he has in Adam Booth.
Yeah, I think that it's essential. You have that trust when you go back into the corner. You know, when you're in a fight, you're fighting for your life. That you have that trust, that undying trust in the man who's advising you, and if he's telling you to jab or to move, then you take that advice. But I remember one time I was training with Adam, and Adam would be a very vocal coach, especially in sparring, and you know, throw this punch, do this, do that throughout the round. And one time, like this was going on for ages, and then I just went back to the corner. I said, like, Adam, just in this round, just don't speak, and let me work it out. And that was probably my best round. And after that, I went for the spar, continued the spar, and he said, what happened that round? And I'm like, I said to him, like, by the time you were telling me to do a thing, by the time I had the time to think about a process and do it, it was too late. You know, it was too late. And the subconscious mind is I don't know how many times, but it's a lot more quicker than the actual processing mind. So you can see things yourself, and Ryan is very good at seeing things himself, you know, and figuring things out. In those fights, you know, with Haskins, he adapted his game and kind of out-tricked the trickster in Haskins, and same with Zakyanov, who's a bruiser, who's a battler and a brawler. He realised that boxing wasn't going to work, and after you could see he switched mentally and he started to bully Zakyanov. So he did that himself, you know. And
these super bantamweights and bantamweight fights are brutal because it's people who have really shrunk down to get to the weight and have come back up, and they're generally very well matched for what they're doing, and they throw thousands of punches. So, like, you can't really have I mean, some people have gone on to have really long careers at this, but, like, Burnett has a chance now over the next couple of years to get in, make his money, and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what he wants to do. He's not a guy, I wouldn't say he's a guy who studies the game, who, as you say, doesn't watch any of the fight. I think he's a guy who's solely focused on himself. I don't think he has a great love for boxing in the sense that he's a student of the game. When you think about the bantamweight division, like, there's not many of them, you know, because it is such a brutal. So, like, there'd be a pool of maybe 7 or 8 bantamweights from the UK, and maybe 7 or 8 from Europe, and then 7 or 8 from America. And those guys are literally fighting each other, you know, all the time. They build up their records, and once they get to a certain level, they have to fight each other. And as you see, Jamie McDonald is going to Japan to fight Inuan, and that's a unification fight. And I think once Ryan, like Paul Butler's who's going to fight for now Ryan's vacant IBF belt against Rodriguez, and I think he'll probably come through that. So that could be a future fight for Ryan if he comes through on the 31st.
Okay, and one last thing, Michael Conlon joining Adam Booth, that's a great move for him, right?
Brilliant move. I think it's a great move, yeah. Not only to be with Adam, but also to be with Ryan. And Charlie Edwards is in the gym, and Lucian Reid. They're all around the same weight. They'll spar and bounce off each other, and he'll progress. Not like being with Adam, but also being with Ryan. So they
can drive each other on.
Yeah, they'll drive.
Having a world champion in the gym is no bad thing at all. Andy, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. And we'll obviously keep a close eye on how Ryan Burnett's preparations are going for that fight. We're going to get to Graham Hunter in a moment, but first here's Kenny Cunningham speaking on Off the Ball last night, talking about Alexis Sanchez and his future at Manchester United.
Sanchez for me is going to continue to be an issue going forward, and I wouldn't surprise me get a situation in the summer where he could be out. He could be out. They could get their money back in the summer for Sanchez. He's got some massive decisions there to make. Mourinho, Pogba and Sanchez, Crystal Palace. Think yourself back to the Crystal Palace game. Pogba for me in his best position, playing left of a 3. Sanchez just kept coming in and playing on his toes, kept playing in the same area of the pitch. When you're asking Pogba for me to play in his best position left of an 8, your left winger has to stay and play left wing and open up those inside channels for Pogba to go and play and show the ability which he has. Sanchez kept coming in and taking
too much energy,
space.
too much dropping back.
Yeah, but in discipline. It's not just in discipline. Manchester City don't do that. In and out possession, they're fixed. They understand their roles. They know where they need to be in relation to other players on the pitch. Manchester United under Mourinho, so un-Mourinho-like from a tactical point of view, how indisciplined they are in terms of their position sets. Sanchez in particular, that wound-up toy, off you go and influence the game and whatever, you know.
Graham Hunter, good morning to you. How you doing?
He's good. I was enjoying listening to that. Get me off.
Well, we'll
get Kenny back on.
We'll talk about Messi in a minute, obviously, because that's what everybody wants to talk about. But just on the point about Sanchez, you hear things in football. Is there a possibility that Alexis Sanchez won't start next season at Manchester United?
Listen, I think it's up for grabs who's in charge of Manchester United next season. Mourinho signing a new contract, the likelihood is that he stays. The way things that are shaping, there is a possibility that the way in which the owners value Mourinho changes a little bit. I'm not advancing a headline or a story, but if you take Kenny's point about Alexis's very low return and how disenchanted he looks about what's being asked of him, well, Kenny was pointing out that, and it was a brilliantly argued piece, that in positional football, there won't be this indiscipline of Alexis trampling on Pogba's development, Pogba's influence in a particular game, and Alexis will be given a role. Fine, okay, it's a good shout. Alexis is a player who invents, who's a player who's still, one of the few modern world leaders who's a pure street footballer. He's not being asked to do that. So I think Mourinho is complicit in what Kenny's criticising. And if you ask Alexis to play either it doesn't have to be a false nine phrase, but as the striker who's allowed freedom, liberty to go across the line, to drop back, but as the main striker, he's very effective. If you ask him to play off a principal striker and there's a partnership, he's very effective. If you're asking him to play wide left because Lukaku is your set striker, he will remain unhappy. He will remain delivering less. He likes to be not team leader, but frontline leader. He likes to take responsibility. And within certain guidelines, he likes to have not chaotic, but anarchic freedom. And that's why he's dangerous. That's why defences find him hard to patrol, hard to keep up with. And right now, he isn't simply being shackled. He's being asked to do something that is not his speciality, and it's not the reason they went and got him. So a rejig is needed before we talk about him leaving. And I think the core of Kenny's point was not only good, but really well argued.
It seems to me like the player you're describing could play in a 2 with either Lukaku or Marcus Rashford, but probably is going to struggle to play in a 3 with both of them.
Well, look, the first thing that you used that very kind phrase, you hear things. One thing I know for a fact is that Mourinho's in charge next season. He wants to use Rashford and Martial, if he's there, centrally. He understands, before we even look at Alexis, and I think my argument is that we're looking at a cue here, Ger. Rashford is homebred. Rashford is one of those players who can become, who's good enough, but who also identifies wholly with the area, with the team, he chose in the face of big competition. I know this from interviewing him, to go to United, to stay at United. He wants to be there. He's emblematic if there's a rebuilding going on. Mourinho knows that Rashford's proper position is central. Maybe not number 9, but probably in that position you just described. If Mourinho is in charge, whoever's in charge, building that team such that if Lukaku is the 9, the guy who most regularly plays beside him or off him or behind him, whatever you want to call it, is Rashford. And I think that's right. Rashford, I was with Jamie Scowcroft, Ipswich Crystal Palace, Leicester striker, watching the game on Tuesday night. And he said, look, the modern idea is that youngsters like Rashford have to play on the wing to earn their spurs, to be able to come inside where they belong. I think that's fair. And there's a log jam at the moment. And I don't think Alexis is right now number 1 in Mourinho's mind to be playing in that role that you delineated. So the problem may well continue. There is a difficulty. I don't think that United exactly pinched Alexis because they could, because it damaged City. But whether they pinched him knowing exactly how to get the best out of him, I'd have my doubts.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like it. Somebody who is still getting the best out of all of his glittering array of talents is Leo Messi. And last night is just another phenomenal appearance at this stage of his career, to still be as explosive, as clever, as constructive and as brilliant is unparalleled really in football history.
You know already from all our years of friendship, Ger, that I don't want to hide my romanticism about football. And it still thrills me to be present. It still thrills me to have the right to write about him on nights like that. I had the very good fortune, having named him man of the match, that late, about 1:45 in the morning, I got the nod that I could interview him post-match. And to him, it's still a matter of fact what he does. But I reflect on Neymar having done him because of Neymar's naivety, stupidity, greed in when he left and how he left. He definitely galvanised Messi. Because when you expressed your astonishment that he's still doing it, that he still has the explosiveness, the creativeness, the hunger, that desire. Let's use all the adjectives that everybody's used before. And Iniesta last night said it's really hard to add anything. Even Iniesta, even after last night, fellow pros that play with him all the time get stumped, although I only saw on social media the BT reactions. Lineker, Gerrard, Ferdinand, 3 pretty high achievers, hard-bitten ex-pros, behaving like evangelical kids, moved, excited, thrilled, honoured to be in the same stadium. All I'll say is that when you're at that level, it's not coasting, Jer. But elite pros, even how disciplined they are, how hungry they are, always need something to prick them, to make them reach deeper, to be more determined, to place other things just slightly to the left and to the right than the goal of being the best, winning the trophies. And Messi's in a groove this season whereby he'd never scored against Buffon, he did. He'd never scored against Chelsea, he did. He's run La Liga ragged. Right now he's making a team where Barca's 11 probably aren't quite as illustrious as the City 11, the way that City are playing. They're not winning as many hearts, Barcelona, but they're far more competitive, more robust, and they're building a platform. Instead of people worrying about Messi dependency, Valverde has built this such that there's a platform for Messi to take over whenever he chooses to. I spoke to Valverde about that's 100 goals in the Champions League, and Conte sat there, Jared, speaking like you. Conte came off, you probably saw it, sort of arms around each other and chatting to each other, Messi and Conte at the end. And Conte at halftime had gone after Suarez in the tunnel, furious and digging at him. So don't believe for a second that Conte is now not as competitive as he once was. Ferocious man, yet a little hug and special words for Messi at the end. And in the press conference, asked why, he said, well, look, it's really important to tell a player like that he's a super, super, super top player. He said, I love the opportunity you have to tell him. You have to say it. So he has this galvanizing, evangelical impact on anybody who can see, anybody who's not bitter and twisted. And honestly, it feels like Barcelona remain slight outsiders for this title. But if Messi keeps playing like this, then maybe, against the odds, they're contenders to win another treble. In the final of the Cup, leading the league, I think they'll win that. I still think dark horses for the Champions League, but playing absolutely astonishingly. And I take, like you, I take joy from watching it, and may he continue until he's 40.
Graham, do you think it's humanly possible to stop a Lionel Messi side when he's fully fit and on this sort of form?
There were, the way to start that answer is that I remember when Chelsea knocked Barcelona out in 2012, Robbie Di Matteo made the plan. And recently I spoke to him and I said, when Frank Lampard robbed Messi on a night when, listen, let's go back to Stamford Bridge 2012, when Messi played that night in a losing team at least as well as he did last night, maybe better. But around him, none of his teammates could score and they hit the bar and Ashley Cole cleared off the line, blah, blah, blah. And Di Matteo's plan was to turn a strength into a weakness, and Lampard was told to target Messi when he dropped deep, to press, to do what Messi did to Cesc Fabregas last night. And they did. They robbed him in possession, and immediately the transition of the ball to Ramirez and the centre to Drogba, 1-0, blah, 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 2-2 at the next leg. Chelsea go through, Barca go out, Chelsea win the tournament. So I think the answer is yes. I think it's just rare. And Di Matteo said, I watched 8 different opponents with 8 different game plans, each trying to stop Messi. And you know what? I said, well, all of them failed. He said, all of them failed. So you need a following wind. You need a little bit of luck. You need to have the right game plan. Your players need to be on brilliant form. You need to be the one that makes a difference in front of goal, not Barcelona. And therefore, maybe that typically of me, and it's a long-winded way of saying yes. But the stats tell you that when he's playing anything like that, 98% of the time, however his teammates are playing, Barca are unstoppable, yeah.
Graham, great stuff this morning. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again real soon. It's Graham giving us some thoughts on another virtuoso performance from Leo Messi. And we keep saying this, but if you get the chance, you should go to Barcelona and see him while he's still in this form, because you will regret for the rest of your life that you had the opportunity to go and see the greatest footballer of all time doing his stuff at this level in the new camp, and you didn't go.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to know whether or not you're living in one of these great eras, but I think it is absolutely clear-cut that this is one of those eras. Argentina are 9-1 to win the World Cup, is all I'm saying.
You think that's a good bet?
That's kind of why I asked that question at the end. I don't think he's stoppable. in that sort of form when he's fully fit. I always think in the previous 3 World Cups that he's played in, something hasn't been quite right. If there is... Okay, the obvious thing is that, well, Argentina aren't very good outside Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
That's one thing that's not quite right. But I think that he just lifts everybody around him. And as I say, there has been something wrong either with fitness or something wrong diplomatically in the camp over the last 3 World Cups with Argentina.
They had Maradona as their manager. That was wrong.
Case in point.
Yeah.
This year it doesn't seem that way, and Messi is as good as ever.
All right, 9-1 is his bet for the day, but we're going to get some better bets, I hope, now from Johnny Ward, who's on the line. Johnny, good morning to you. Not as flat as a pancake yesterday. Celebrations all round when Sam Crowe romped home.
Yes, indeed. Celebrations all round, and a lot of relief, really, I think, for Gordon Elliott as well as Michael O'Leary, and obviously those of us who'd backed him. He delivered, but he lost a shoe in running. And a lot of people at Cheltenham look like they lost more than a shoe yesterday. They're really getting into the spirit of it. But despite losing a shoe, he still romped home. And we can live another day. We can live another day, Ger. And hopefully Lorena will be similarly good today.
Are you as heavily on board with Lorena as you were with Sam Crowe?
I'm heavy. Very, very heavy now. I'm talking heavy, you know. I have them in doubles, trebles. My life depends on it, in effect. Well, not quite that, but it is important that she wins for my general well-being, and she should as well. She is the nap of the day, the lock of the day. Smooth Jimmy's lock of the day.
All right, new Jimmy's lock of the day is Lorena. About 6-4 on at the moment in the Novices Hurdle. That's the second last race of the day. You've also been talking about Maldini for a little while. So Maldini probably going to go off touching favouritism in the Kim Muir, the last race of the day.
Yeah, I'd be worried about the ground for him. You know, he's trained by Pat Kelly and owned by Philip Reynolds, who obviously had presenting Percy romp home yesterday. Gold Cup winner of next year, I should suspect. I think Maldini still has a strong chance. Patrick Mullen's riding him. He's been laid out for the race, but I would have grounds for concern, as it were, Ger.
Yeah, because it rained a lot overnight and he's not amazing on bottomless ground.
No, he's not. And I think they got 9 mils. You know, I was getting lots of texts from Ireland. Oh, it's bucketing down here, no rain at Cheltenham, but by the time I went to bed, it was raining heavy, and they got a lot of it. Now it's a new course today, which makes it a little bit fresher, but it's going to be more Irish ground than English today, which will suit some, not others, including Super Sunday in the big race.
All right. Well, let's keep going then. We'll start at the start again of the day. The Novices Chase, the JLT. Your tip here is Shattered Love at about 17-2. Shattered
Love, I'm sure a name that many can relate to in terms of her past and all that, but she is a powerful mare. She gets a mare's allowance, even though, you know, size-wise she's huge. She's just really, really filled into herself this season, and it's not a great race, to be honest. I expect her to go out in front, and you know, a lot of people will be backing her each way for Gordon Elliott. Gordon's horse is just in great form. Felt the pressure a bit coming into day 2, but you know, he did treble yesterday, and I think she's a solid each way chance. I wouldn't go mad in her, but I expect her to run well.
All right, Glen Lowe in the next in the per temps, again about 8-1, so an each way shot here.
Yes, Glen Lowe has been laid out for the race by Gordon Elliott, owned by JP McManus, who loves these big handicap winners at Cheltenham. Very likely raced horse, you know, should have a bit of improvement in him. I expect him to run a big race. That'll be a real slog, that race. Huge field over 3 miles over hurdles, but it shouldn't bother Glen Lowe. He'll be used to it from Ireland, and has to run a big race.
The Ryanair, you've got an outsider here, Cloudy Dream at about 12-1.
Yeah, he's an outsider. Funnily enough, I mean, he might even be the second outsider in the race at this stage. Duvan, I presume, is going to be a non-runner. It's a bit frustrating. If you back Anthony in the race now and Duvan's taken out, which I presume he will be, you're going to be hit by a Rule 4. But Cloudy Dream, back this horse each way. I really do fancy him each way at around 10-12-1. Undeso, I'd just be worried about him getting home. Paul Townend's going to ride him today. Cloudy Dream just should be mentioned. Waiting patiently, this horse's stablemate was a leading fancy for this race, was pulled out. Cloudy Dream was something of an afterthought for Ruth Jefferson. Her dad, Malcolm, the trainer, died only in February. It would be a big emotional win if he could do it, but I think he'd run a huge race.
What's a Rule 4? Just explain that.
So basically a Rule 4 is it's like you back 5, say there are 5 horses in the race, one of them is pulled out. Your chance obviously improves now because you've one less to worry about, but as the bookmaker knows that your chance has improved, he will impose a deduction on any prospective winnings to reflect that. It's completely fair, but the problem is a lot of people are having bets this morning that don't realise that Duvan's in the race. In fact, I nearly made that mistake myself. So Duvan is 4-1. That's a 20-cent Rule 4. So that's 20% of your winnings gone if your selection wins are placed.
All right, and there's no chance Duvan's going to run, is there?
I mean, I presume not. I'd be gobsmacked if he ran. I mean, if it were a run-of-the-mill horse, maybe. And he didn't get actually that far yesterday. What did he jump, 5 or 6? And apparently he was great after the race. But, God, I'd be amazed if they ran him again. You know, it's considering how long he was off, to run him twice in 24 hours would be something. I'd be amazed if he ran.
Okay, so the Sunbet Stayers Hurdle then, you're looking here at Sam Spinner, around about 4-1.
Huge chance this horse, trained by Jed O'Keefe, who would be a small trainer, and Joe Colliver never had a winner at the festival, may not even have had a winner at Cheltenham actually, but this horse so likeable. You know, I've been on Super Sunday anti-post, I've given up on that given the ground now, wasn't expecting it to be like this, but neither were connections of Sam Spinner, and they will be doing the rain dance. He's just a real dour stayer, stays longer than the mother-in-law as they say, and if he does that today he's a good chance.
Okay, and then the last one here is the Brown Advisory Plate, King Socks at 8-1.
King Socks, you're telepathic with my selections here this morning. I think we've never been on the same wavelength to this extent before.
I read them off the internet.
Yeah, I was actually talking last night about you read them off the internet. I was talking last night about The Crown, the great Netflix documentary, and how I really have grown to like the very tight wins or not, the really, really tight wins or not. And that, of course, brings in the King, because the King was a big fan of that in the series. And King Socks is being laid out for this race, 8-1. David Pipe won the race 3 times already in recent years, was second to Footpad over hurdles in France. And on that form, he's very, very well in here. We'll need a bit of luck, but if he gets it, I think he's a sound each way chance. Stable could be in better form, but definitely be laid out for the race.
All right, one last thing we got to talk about, that's Ruby Walsh. Let's hear from Katie first. After she won the bumper yesterday, she was asked about Ruby in the aftermath. Have a look.
It's been a tough day for your family. What does the success mean to you on this day?
Sure, I'm torn a bit, to be honest. You know, I'm a very emotional person anyway, but yeah, I really appreciate days like this. It's fantastic. But yeah, in the back of my mind, you know, I feel sorry for Ruby. But, you know, then once I rounded the corner behind the screens and he was up and he was talking to me, that's the main thing. So it's not as bad as it first seemed, I think, so he'll be back.
Have you spoken to him since he's been in the hospital?
No, I give him a ring now after. But yeah, you know, it could be an awful lot worse, I know. But yeah, my heart's torn a bit. But yeah, it's been a fantastic day for me.
Katie Walsh on Racing UK yesterday. We always forget this, you know. It's like, oh, Ruby broke his leg, and we talk about it because he's broken his legs, he's had his spleen taken out. We do forget that they're risking life and limb every time.
Absolutely, you really do. You just get on with the next race, or you have your next bet, or you go for a few points afterwards and you get on with your life, whereas Ruby now has broken his leg twice, the same leg, and it was mid-November, so whatever that is, 4 months, you know, he's 39 in April or May, and you just wonder, I mean, he was literally back 6 days when this happened, and, you know, for Katie to come out with that emotion, it was the same as Keith Donoghue yesterday when he was crying after the Fox Hunt. You know, Cheltenham can get the better of you, but these weren't crocodile tears. Keith Donoghue was basically retired. He had to lose 8 pounds in the space of 24 hours to defy nature and ride in the race, and then Katie, you know, we've lost jockeys jockeys have died who've fallen at the Cheltenham Festival, notably JT McNamara, and the emotion that she felt in winning on the bumper yesterday was real. Spoke to all her family afterwards, and you know, it was just the wild swing in emotions you experienced in this place. It has to be, you have to be over here to actually believe it. But just that Ruby can get up and fight another day was far more important to Katie than riding another festival winner. But what a person she is. She actually bought and sold the horse in second as well, kind of trained it in a point-to-point, sold it. And when she was coming up the straight, taking dead aim at this horse, she probably thought, geez, that's the horse I actually sold after he won his point-to-point. I better beat him. But, you know, if he wins, it's not the worst thing. It shows that I'm willing to buy and sell.
Yeah, no, what a family. Johnny, I hope you're not too tired and emotional tomorrow, and best of luck with the rest of the day. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you in the morning.
Johnny Ward there giving us his thoughts. We'll be back at 12:30 with a Cheltenham special, bringing you the very latest market movers and trying to foment outrage. It's actually going to be during the Keith Andrews show today. Of course it is. Keith is in, and Alan Judge is going to be on that show today. James Downey on the rugby as well. That's all part of it. Well, it's going to be great. Tune in again at around about 12:30 today. We're going to be trying to foment some outrage about the fact that we're all scumbags. I mean, I feel like a bit of a scumbag.
Scummy.
Well, under these lights, you do get a bit scummy. I mean, Eddie Jones could literally call us scummy and he'd be right. It's hot in here.
Yeah, like, I mean, we're not the sort of nation to take roofs off supermarkets. Oh, wait, yes, we are. Maybe he has a point. Maybe we are all scummy.
Right, we're going to finish with something a little bit different here. This is just been deleted. We're going to finish here with something a little bit different. Cork comedian Richie Sheehy has teamed up with Kiri's Renault to create some new songs. You're going to know from that Salah song. Here's a treat for Munster fans.
Murray, 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 no need to worry when he's on your team.
Murray, 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 no need to worry, every coach's dream. Oh Manny, oh you came and you left the team quaking, and you sent them away, oh Manny. When you fly through the air it's breathtaking, and we need you today, oh Manny.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.